Now we're ready to start implementing our database design inside of Microsoft Access. First, let's explore the data model that I've developed for the Two Trees Olive Oil Company. Here are the 4 tables that I've decided we need: Customers table, the Invoices table, the Line Items table, and the Products table. One thing to note here is that I've settled on a camel case naming convention, so I'm not using any spaces in my table names or field names. Also notice that I've called out the primary key and foreign key fields from each table. And in the Line Items table, we have the invoice ID and line item number will form a concatenated key. Let's go ahead and take a look at the relationships between these tables. And we'll see that we've got 3 one-to-many relationships that join everything together. Now I've also got, in addition to this data model, a data table design worksheet for each of these tables that lists the additional details that we'll need when we create these tables inside of Access. I'm going to go ahead and press this blank desktop database button to start up a new database inside of Access. That's going to ask me for a name. I'm going to call it Two Trees. And I'll press this folder icon here to tell it where to save this database. I'm going to put it on my desktop. We'll say OK. And I'll go ahead and press the Create button to set up this new database file. Inside of Access, it starts me with a new table started here. And I'm going to go ahead and press this View button up here to change it into Design View. That's going to prompt me for a name, and I'm going to start with our Customers table. So I'll type in Customers and say OK. That switches me over to Design View. And this layout is similar to our table design worksheets, so it'll be easy to fill in the field names and details. My first field name is going to be Customer ID. And Access has already determined that that's an auto number field and set it as the primary key. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the next field down here. It's going to be first name. My data type for this is going to be a short text field. And the field size I'm going to change here from the default of 255 to 50 characters. The next field is my last name field. And that's also going to be short text at 50 characters. The next field is going to be billing address. I'll press the Tab key this time to jump over to the data type. Again, that's short text, and this time the field size is going to be 100. The next field is going to be my billing city. That's going to be short text at 50 characters. The next field is billing state. That'll be short text, and here we're going to store a 2-letter state abbreviation, so I just need 2 characters there. And the last is going to be billing zip. And even though the zip code is normally a number, I'm going to choose short text and change its field size to 5. That way we can accommodate international zip codes as well. So that does it for the fields in my Customers table. I'll press the Save icon up here on the toolbar and go ahead and close it out. And you'll notice that Access adds that table over here in the navigation pane. Let's go ahead and go to the Create tab and start our next table. I'll press Table Design. And this is going to be our Invoices table. So my first field is going to be Invoice ID. We'll change its data type to Auto Number. This is going to generate the automatic serial number for this field. And I'm going to click on the Primary Key button up here to turn on the primary key for this field. We'll go into the next field, and it's going to be Invoice Date. Notice that I'm being careful to not just call this date. I don't want to generate any reserved word warnings. We'll go into data type and change this to a date time data type. The next field is going to be Customer ID. We'll change its data type to integer. It's a number, long integer here. And I also want to mark this as required. So there's a required property here, and I'll change this way over here, drop down to yes. Now it's a required field. This will link over to our Customers table. And finally, the last field in the Invoices table is going to be Method of Payment. And this is going to be a text field. So I'll choose short text there. In the method of payment, one of our business rules, we've decided that our only methods of payment are going to be credit card or purchase order. So we want to limit this field to just those 2 options. To do that, I'm going to change my field size to 14, which is the maximum number of characters in purchase order. I'll switch over to the Lookup tab and change this display control to a combo box. I'm going to change the row source from a table query to a value list. And that'll allow me to input the row source here. If I click this button way over here on the right. And that'll bring up the Edit List items where I can type in the values that I'd like. So in this case, credit card and purchase order. We'll go ahead and say OK. And I'll switch back to the General tab. So that does it for our Invoices table. We'll press the Save icon and call it Invoices. And I can go ahead and close this one. All right, one more table. We've got create, table design. This is going to be our line items table. So the first field is invoice ID. This will link it back to the invoices table. So its data type is going to be a number, and that'll be long integer. The next field is going to be our line item number. And again, this is going to be a number field and long integer. Now, both of these fields together will form a concatenated primary key. In order to set that up, I'll click over here on the first line, and I'll shift click on the second line to select both of them. And then I'll click on the primary key field here. Next, we'll go down and add in a couple more, product ID. This will link it to our products table, so it's going to be a number and long integer. And then finally, we have the quantity ordered. Quantity, number, and we'll leave that as long integer as well. Okay, so that does it for our line items table. I'll press the save icon, call it line items and say OK. And we'll close it. And I've got the last products table to create. So one more time to the create tab, table design. The first field will be product ID. It is an auto number field. It'll generate the automatic serial number. There. I'll turn on primary key. The next field is going to be oil type. This will be a short text field, and we've identified that we need 50 characters to store that value. The next is bottle size. This will be a number field. And instead of a long integer, I want to be able to store decimals. So I'm going to change this field size down to single. The next is going to be weight. And once again, this is a number that'll store decimals. So I'll change my field size to single. And the last field is price, and that's going to be a currency data type. I'll press the save icon, call it products. We'll say OK, and I'll close the table.